Okay, in our previous video, we learned of completing the square. And you see, it's an alternative to factorization. So if you have a quadratic equation um, that's difficult to factorize or impossible to factorize, because for you to factorize, you need to be able to come up with whole numbers that can do the product and the sum thing. But you can't always get that. Now, we learned of completing the square. There's also a method called the quadratic formula. But then, is there anything unique about this formula? Actually, no. The formula is just a packaged completing the square, like completing the square that has been arranged properly for you to just put in values. Okay, so let's just think of an equation. Let's say equation um, ax squared, so ax squared plus bx plus c. So let's say we have this equation, and this equation cannot be factorized. So we want to complete the square like we learned in the former video. So equals 0. What would I do? I'll take this across, and then I'll look for something I should add to this to make it a perfect square. Same process. So I'll simply rewrite ax squared plus bx equals minus c. I've taken it out. Now, before we proceed, let us make sure that this a is out. All right, let's just divide through by a so that we have a coefficient of 1 for x squared. So here we're going to have ax squared over a. That would be x squared. Let me rewrite that properly. That would be x squared. Then we have a b here, so b over ax. Okay, then we have c there, then c over a. All right, we have that. Now what we want to do is, there's a minus here, we want to complete the square of this part. So to do that, as usual, we'll get the coefficient of x, which is this, and then we divide it by 2, right? When we divide it by 2, we square it and add it to the other side. So x squared plus, let's come here, let's say b over a divided by 2. This is equal to b, you know, this 2 can be 2 over 1, right? Every whole number is over 1. So we'll have b over a times, when you want to divide fractions, you just, the right hand side, you turn it upside down, right? So times 1 over 2. So this is b times 1b, 2 times a, 2a, right? We have divided by 2. Okay, now when we divide by 2, another step is that we should power it by 2. So we have b squared all over, everything here is squared. So 2 raised to the power 2, 4, and then a raised to the power 2, a squared. Okay, so for this, it will remain the way it is. So it will remain b over ax. Then we are going to add this to make this part a perfect square. Okay, so I'll just copy that down. B squared all over 4a squared. Now, because we've added this to the left hand side, we must add it to the right hand side. So we have minus c over a. We'll now add it again. B squared over 4a squared. All right, fair enough. Now, just factorize this. Let's actually just put it out there as a perfect. So you remember the ones we did yesterday? the previous video. That was what I meant by yesterday. All right, we just take this and it works. Just take this, all right, and it works. I will remind you. Okay, so when we have something like, say, x squared plus 6x, and then we have this and raise it to the power 2, we have x squared plus 6x plus 9. Okay, so when we take half of this being or take half of these being 3, and then we put it in a bracket, say x plus 3, x plus 3. Now we expand x times x squared, x times 3, 3x, x times 3, 3x, x, 3 times 3, 9. See, we are back here, right? When we just take half of this, it works. Half of this, it works. So we'll come here, we'll take half of this, half of this. So put x, and half of this, we've done that before, is this. Is this here. Is this. So we'll just put that down as plus b over 2a. Alright? We don't need to put x again. And then we'll close the brackets. Raised to power 2 equals all of that. So let's just add them once. Long line there. 4a squared. 4a squared divided by a is 4a. Multiplied by minus c is minus 4ac. 4a squared divided by 4a squared is 1. Multiplied by that is plus b squared. Alright. Now, let us take this out. We're trying to make x associated to formula now. Let's take this out by square rooting this part. So we have x plus b over 2a, okay, equals square root of minus 4ac plus b squared, still in the root, over 4a squared. Now, when you have, let me make some space here. When you have something like this, 6 over 4, it's actually equal to root 6 over root 4. Okay, and you can leave it as root 6 over 2. That's because this can actually be broken down. Go ahead and do it. But this one that cannot, leave it as sod. Alright, so let's look at this now. This root is going to work down here, but it will not work up here. So we're going to simplify it down there for the denominator. So x plus b over 2a equals, now the root will only be for the numerator, minus 4ac plus b squared. All right, all over square root of 4 is 2, square root of a squared is a. Good job. All right, so one more thing, because we are using a square root now, like, 4 times 4 is 16, minus 4 times minus 4 is still 16. So when you are saying square root of 16, you are asking, what can I multiply to itself and get 16? You can multiply 4 to itself, being positive 4, and get 16. You can multiply minus 4 to itself and still get 16. So the answer is plus or minus. We've got two answers there. So for that reason, we're bound to put plus minus here. Plus minus, let me write that properly. Right, so equal to plus minus, same thing here. Okay, equal to plus minus. All right, now let's take this the other way so that we can actually make x the subject of the formula. When it goes over, it becomes negative b over 2a. All right, we have plus minus, of course, square roots of minus 4ac plus b squared all over 2a. All right, now 2a, 2a, so of course the same denominator. Let's add that easily. Okay, so a long line. 2a minus b plus minus square root of minus 4ac plus b squared. Now, this is what we call the quadratic equation. All right, some people call it the almighty formula. This is how it is obtained. So you see, completing the square and quadratic formula are actually not different from each other. Okay, so what I can do now is I can, because this starts with negative, I can take it in and bring it out. So I have x equals minus b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So anytime you're using the quadratic formula, what some people call almighty formula, it's not almighty. All right, you are just completing the square.